Hello, how y'all doing? I'm going to talk about Ravi Zacharias. I don't know if he made it. I don't know if he made it. And I'm sure you've heard the news about Ravi Zacharias. To be honest, I'm kind of shocked because I didn't know he had this other aspect of his personality. Um, Now, years ago, there was a certain time of day I listened to preachers, and I heard this man with his accent preaching the gospel. So now I'm interested. Okay. But it wasn't until I got on YouTube about 3 or 4 years ago that I could put the face with the voice. So now I understood who he was. But he's from India, and I listened to him, a little bit on YouTube. But it's fascinating to hear a person, with an Indian accent preach the gospel. I don't usually call people names by name on YouTube, but this is one of these emergency situations. Okay, now I'm hearing that there's some issue with Creflo Dollar too. Okay, now part of the problem could be is that he didn't know the law. When I got totally alone, God started talking to me about the law, and I was like, "What are you talking about the law?" So I went all the way back to Genesis, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Psalms, Proverbs, and read about the law. Okay, and it's like it's much deeper than what we know. The law, God's law, is much deeper than what we know. Now Jesus said, "You already have the law." He said He's the fulfillment of the law. So what Jesus said is that if you even look upon a woman, or a woman look upon a man with lust, you have already committed adultery in your heart. If you even look upon, whether you look at a cell phone, whether you look at a tablet, whatever. King David said, I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. That's what he said. But maybe he didn't have any understanding of the law. Maybe Zacharias didn't have any understanding of the law. Paul said, Christ is the end of the law. Jesus is the end of the law. The law is how I found out what true prosperity is, and that is to go possess the land, because I was brainwashed by this give and get philosophy, which that's not all there is to it. God said, go possess the land. That's the first economic command. He said, go possess the land. When I went back to Genesis in the Old Testament, I found out what true prosperity is. The Lord said, work diligent, hard work. That's what He respects. He said, work diligently. And then He said, you sit before kings. He said, watch your money. Don't spend everything you have. Okay. He said, count the cost. He said, we ought to work by the sweat of our brow. He ordained that in Genesis. But I'm thinking Ravi Zacharias may not have known the law. He may have not understood it. For that matter, he may not have understood what salvation is, because salvation is mentioned in Jeremiah and Isaiah. Salvation is mentioned in the Old Testament. I thought it was a new concept, but it's not. It's an old concept. Redemption is mentioned in the Old Testament. Maybe he didn't understand deliverance. Maybe he didn't understand Christ has come to set us free. Free from what? Free from lust, free from addictions, free from murders, and so on. And I'm sure the Lord talked to him and said, John 8:11, go ye and sin no more. Romans 2:11, thou art inexcusable, O man. And then Romans 12:1, I'm sure he told him, present your body as a living sacrifice. I'm sure he told Ravi Zacharias all of that. And then Ravi kept sinning. I'm pretty sure the Lord may have said, you know what? I'm going to give you up to a reprobate mind. A lot of Christians play with sin and play with God. Okay, I can partake of this sin and God doesn't see me. The ancient Israelites said that too. I can commit ritual prostitution with men and women. The Lord doesn't see it. I can kill these babies and the Lord doesn't see it. Okay, and they paid the price, but the Lord does see it. But Christians like to think they can play with sin. Jerry Falwell, Jr. They can play with sin, or they can play with God. And some of these young people think they can play with sin. Young people who are not Christians, they believe they can play with sin. They go to a house, to rob it, shot dead, gone to hell at 16, 17 years old. So a lot of people, saved and unsaved, believe they can play with sin. So I'm thinking Ravi Zacharias didn't have knowledge of sin. He didn't have knowledge of the law. I'm not trying to make excuses for his behavior, but I'm just saying, nobody told me about the law when I first got saved. Nobody told me. So that's why when the Lord told me, when I was totally alone, the Lord told me in my private Bible study about the law. So I went back to Genesis, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Proverbs, and Psalms to read about the law. He just didn't want to put it on the altar. Paul said, fast and pray if you have these weaknesses, if you have a stronghold, you have something that's lusting, some kind of lust in your heart, to put, to fast and pray. Paul said, I don't even trust myself. And I don't trust myself either, y'all. Paul said, I don't even trust myself. He said, I fast and pray because I don't trust my flesh. I don't even trust myself. Okay. And, it could have been a cultural thing too. Okay. In Africa, they don't have hang-ups about sex. They go to bed naked. Okay. In India, they don't have hang-ups about sex. They go to bed naked. Okay. But in America, we have hang-ups about sex. What do? We go to bed with a ton of pajamas on. Okay. We go to bed. We have hang-ups about sex. Why? Because of this Puritan heritage. The Quakers and the Puritans, they don't do nothing. So what happened? George, people like Thomas Jefferson, well, look, I'm gonna hang out with the slave women, not only Sally Hemings, but probably a few others. See what happens there. Okay. Now, India is an idolatrous nation, but so is the United States and so is Africa. So, but like I said, I do think that there's a cultural difference. In his culture, there's no hang-ups about sex like there is in America. We always have to be sneaky to look at anything. We have to look at something in a picture on the cell phone. We are all sneaky and everything. I do think that possibly he had some enablers. I'm sure his wife knew, his daughter knew. I'm sure that people in the ministry knew. Probably all people in the ministry knew, but they put him under pressure not to repent. They put him under pressure to keep preaching because the more he preaches, that's their paycheck right there. So instead of trying to tell him to repent and turn from his wicked ways, which would have gotten their ministry down to zero, they let him go on and on and on. They enabled him. My opinion, when a preacher or an evangelist gets into sinful troubles, usually lust or money or both, it's always shocking. It's shocking when everybody does. I'm shocked at Creflo Dollar. I'm hearing stuff about him. Jerry Falwell Jr., Jerry Falwell Sr., Jimmy Swaggart. When all these preachers, when all these evangelists, when they get into sin, we're always shocked. Well, they don't know the law. Maybe they don't know the law either, as old as they are. I think when you're in your late 50s, 60s, and 70s, you're pretty much too old for sin. If you don't know how to keep yourself, whether you're a preacher or not, if you're just an ordinary person, if you don't know how to keep yourself out of sin by the time you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, you're never going to know. Particularly when you're 70, when everything is over with. Okay? If you don't know how to keep yourself out of sin when you're 70, you're never going to know. That's what my opinion is. But a lot of them think they can play with God. Oh, I can commit this sin and repent, and I'm back in good standing with God. But you can't play with God but so much. Now, like I said, I don't know if he made it to heaven, and I know there's going to be some false prophets. I know who the false prophets are. They're going to say, I saw a vision after eating a taco salad. I saw a vision of Ravi Zacharias in hell. Because, they just finished eating a taco salad. You should have a vision of something. Okay? But I know it's going to be some false person that's going to say that. Some false prophet that's going to say that, because I know who the false prophets are. Okay? Now, one thing I don't understand about Ravi Zacharias, he probably knew he had a terminal illness. Why didn't he at least get rid of some of the evidence? He delete those pictures from his phone, delete it from his computer, delete it from his tablet. I don't understand why he didn't do that. I really don't. All they did was give more for anybody to talk about, okay? But now the victims are coming forth. So, but like I said, it could be a cultural problem. Maybe he didn't really understand the depth of being a Christian, the depth of the law, the depth of salvation, which you have to go to the Old Testament to understand. Because Jesus said, you already have the law. I don't need to reiterate the law. But Jesus, he did change when he said one man, one wife. And he said, look, if you even look up on a person with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. So Jesus expounded upon the law, but he didn't reiterate it. He said, you already have the law. But it could be a cultural thing, you know. He come from a culture where there's no hang-ups about sex, okay? Into a culture where we just got serious hang-ups about sex, okay? That's why we do everything in secret. That's why we make these stupid movies and stuff. Because we got, you know, nobody does anything in America, so everybody in America does everything in secret. Because we just have so many hang-ups about sex, okay? So that could, I'm not making excuses for his behavior, but maybe that has something to do with it, you know. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I don't know if he made it. I can't say whether he made it. You know, a lot of these preachers I never worried about. Preachers who are particularly up in age and are preaching, and I don't worry about them. You know, I just think, okay, they're going to go straight to heaven. And I don't think about them being in sin. And but maybe that's not the right, maybe I should worry about them, you know, because I never think of them as that way. A lot of preachers, I don't even think of them as that way, you know. I don't think they know the way to heaven. When they die, they're going to go to heaven. But maybe I'm wrong. See, I guess, you know, bottom line, we should be praying for everybody. We should pray for children who are not ours. We should pray for the next door neighbor, pray for traveling mercies for them. We should pray for, you know, people who we don't even know. You know, we should pray for everybody, particularly the elderly evangelists, the elderly pastors. We should lift them all up in prayer. Pray for strength in their body and strength in their mind and strength in their spirit. We should pray for all of them, lift them up in prayer, just like they lifted up Moses, just like they lifted up David, King David. We should pray for them and lift them up in prayer. And because, see, you know, we're younger than they are, so we're their strength. So we need to lift up everybody in prayer. We need to lift up all children in prayer. But, you know, we shouldn't be playing with sin. It's a very dangerous thing. Have a nice day. And I don't know where he is. I can't say for sure. You know, I don't eat taco salads. So I'm not going to say where he is. I don't know. Have a nice day.